There is a terrifying, inescapable moment in the world of professional sports where the carefully crafted public relations narratives completely shatter and the raw, unvarnished truth violently forces its way onto the center stage. For weeks, Coco Gauff had become an absolute fortress.
I have been quiet for weeks. Every single press conference, every single question, I gave them nothing. And people called that cowardice. People said I was hiding. But the truth is I was watching. I was watching how this sport treated Alex Eala. I was watching how the people who are supposed to protect athletes in this game completely failed her. And I made a decision. I am done being quiet. Because silence at this point is not neutrality. Silence is complicity. And I refuse to be complicit in what has been done to her.
Through every single post-match interview, every mandatory press conference, and every desperately shouted question in the chaotic hallways of the stadiums, she offered nothing but a resolute, impenetrable silence regarding Alex Eala. The tennis world was not holding its collective breath for a stunning backhand down the line or a glamorous trophy lift. It was waiting for a reaction. The main draw for the United States Open had been officially released 3 weeks prior, placing the American superstar and the Filipino prodigy on an inevitable collision course for the highly anticipated 4th round. From the exact moment those brackets were published, the global media apparatus descended like a storm. Journalists arrived armed with endless variations of the exact same inquiry, asking, "What do you think about playing Alex Eala?" But Gauff masterfully deflected every single attempt. She offered mundane updates on her specific fitness routines, she analyzed the punishing humidity of the New York weather, and she broke down her technical swing adjustments on the hard court, but she actively refused to utter her opponent's name. The silence grew deafening because the underlying reality was universally understood by everyone in the building. This looming matchup was no longer just about tennis. It had completely mutated into a geopolitical lightning rod that threatened to overshadow the entire tournament. Alex Eala had unwittingly transformed from a brilliant young athlete into a massive global symbol, following a highly publicized and incredibly messy controversy involving the French government, a scandal that saw France stubbornly refuse to issue a formal apology, while Italy defiantly retaliated. By naming a prestigious tennis academy in Eala's honor, the 20-year-old was no longer just representing herself on the court. To millions of fans watching around the globe, she embodied the ultimate underdog. She stood for every single athlete from a marginalized nation who had ever been dismissed by the elite establishment and every individual who had been told they simply did not belong at the top table of professional sports. Now this global symbol was slated to play Coco Gauff, the quintessential American superstar, a former United States Open champion, and a bona fide cultural icon who commanded the attention of millions. The press aggressively salivated at the narrative goldmine. They desperately sought to frame the upcoming match as a titanic clash of ideologies, painting it as America versus the Philippines, the entrenched establishment against the defiant outsider, the calculated silence against the persecuted voice. But Gauff utterly refused to play her assigned role in their dramatic script. 2 days before the match, the pressure cooker reached critical mass. The press room was overflowing, packed to the absolute brim, with more international correspondents than you would typically see at a Grand Slam final. The expectation hung incredibly heavy in the air. Gauff entered wearing a simple black sweatshirt, offering a polite, composed smile as she took her seat at the podium. A sports reporter immediately launched the first aggressive volley, asking Coco, "You are about to play Alex Eala, who has been at the center of a major political controversy involving France and Italy, so what are your thoughts on playing her?" Gauff stared directly at the reporter. A grueling 5-second pause stretched painfully across the room before she delivered a flat clinical response, stating, "I am focused on my game, next question." The atmosphere instantly grew suffocatingly uncomfortable. Another journalist pressed forward, noting that Eala felt unfairly treated by the tennis establishment and asking if Gauff agreed with that assessment. The American's polite smile instantly evaporated. She leaned into the microphone and stated, "I am not here to talk about politics. I am here to play tennis, next question." Reporter after reporter tried to crack her armor from different tactical angles, and every single one was met with the exact same impenetrable wall. When the press conference abruptly concluded, the sensational headlines were rapidly and aggressively churned out across the internet. Outlets plastered massive banners reading "Coco Gauff refuses to discuss Alex Eala" and "Silence from Gauff as the Eala controversy looms." The global tennis community fractured instantly. Purists loudly lauded Gauff for her unwavering athletic focus, while fierce critics branded her a coward, accusing her of complicity through her neutrality. Social media transformed into a toxic battleground of trending hashtags and bitter debates featuring former players and incredibly passionate fans. Through all of the deafening noise, Gauff simply trained, ate, slept, and prepared for the biggest battle of her season. But the dam was destined to break. The day before the match, Gauff appeared before the press again, and the facade had finally cracked. Her face was visibly drawn, her eyes betrayed a severe lack of sleep, and the immense crushing weight of the cultural moment was visibly resting on her young shoulders. When the inevitable question about Eala surfaced yet again, the room fell completely dead silent. You could clearly hear the rhythmic clicking of camera shutters and the anxious breathing of the international press corps. Gauff leaned directly into the microphone, and what followed was a definitive statement that would instantly ignite global news networks and permanently alter the narrative landscape of women's sports. "I have been quiet because I did not want to add fuel to a fire that I did not start," Gauff declared with her voice steady and echoing across the silent room. "But I cannot be quiet anymore because I respect Alex Eala. I respect what she has been through. I respect how she has handled herself. She has been treated unfairly by people who should have known better, and I think it is absolutely time someone said that out loud." The press room erupted into absolute chaos as journalists started shouting over one another, desperate for a follow-up quote, but Gauff simply raised a commanding hand to silence them all. "I am not going to talk about presidents or politics because that is not my job," she continued. "But I am going to talk about tennis, and in tennis we respect our opponents. We do not question their hard-earned victories. We do not accuse them of cheating without any evidence. We do not intentionally make them feel like outsiders. Alex Eala is a true champion. She proved that at the French Open. She proved that at the Italian Open, and she will prove it again tomorrow. Win or lose, she is a champion, and I am incredibly honored to share the court with her." Gauff had officially drawn her line in the sand. She had unequivocally taken Eala's side in front of the entire world. Within minutes, the raw footage saturated every single digital platform from Twitter and TikTok to Instagram and massive global sports networks. The specific hashtag Gauff supports Eala utterly dominated worldwide trending topics. The backlash was incredibly swift and fiercely polarized. French media outlets lashed out with intense vitriol, aggressively accusing the American star of blindly wading into complex European politics that she could not possibly comprehend. Angry French columnists dismissed her public solidarity as nothing more than blind propaganda born of shared youth and gender, claiming it was entirely devoid of factual justice. Conversely, the American media landscape was violently torn in two. Champions of Gauff hailed her as a brave generational hero who was finally using her massive platform for undeniable good. Detractors passionately argued that she had recklessly painted a giant target on her own back, alienating an entire European nation over a player she was actively trying to eliminate from the tournament. Completely unfazed by the raging inferno going on outside, Gauff took directly to her Instagram later that evening. Sitting alone in her hotel room, barefaced and completely devoid of glam squads or polished public relations staging, she delivered a final unflinching message to her millions of followers. "I meant every single word I said," she stated directly into the camera. "I am not afraid of the media backlash. I am not afraid of the French government. I am not afraid of anyone. I said exactly what I believed, and I would gladly say it again. See you tomorrow, Alex. Let the best woman win." Just 30 minutes away across the bustling city, Alexandra Eala sat in her own room watching the raw, unfiltered video on an endless loop. Bypassing her managers and her entire public relations team, she sent a direct text message to Gauff containing only 4 simple words: "Thank you, see you tomorrow." There were no emojis. There were no exclamation points. Just profound, genuine gratitude. In an incredibly toxic ecosystem where absolutely everyone wanted to exploit Eala for their own personal political agenda, Coco Gauff had offered genuine, uncalculated humanity. The following evening, the sprawling grounds of the United States Open were completely electrified. Hours before the umpire even called for the first serve, thousands of fans violently swarmed the stadium gates, wielding massive hand-painted signs reading "Go, Coco, Go, Alex and tennis over politics." The heavy, suffocating gravity in the air felt like a monumental Grand Slam final rather than a standard 4th-round encounter. When the two players finally emerged from the tunnel and stepped onto the brightly lit hard court of Arthur Ashe Stadium at 7 o'clock in the evening, 23,000 spectators roared in completely deafening unison. Gauff, fully adorned in her signature brilliant blue dress, projected a terrifyingly calm and dialed-in focus. Eala followed closely behind, dressed in striking, elegant white. While her face perfectly mirrored Gauff's icy composure, her eyes burned with a ravenous, unstoppable hunger. This was her highly anticipated moment to permanently silence every single lingering doubt on the grandest and loudest stage in the entire world. The first set was an absolute masterclass in aggressive, brutal intent. Gauff viciously opened the match by holding her powerful serve in a blistering 90 seconds flat, firing off terrifying aces and unreturnable service winners to send a ruthless, crystal-clear message that their newfound friendship firmly ends at the painted baseline. Eala fearlessly answered the call, immediately initiating grueling, lung-busting 20 and 30 shot baseline rallies that tested the physical limits of both women. The opening set inevitably culminated in a heart-stopping dramatic tiebreak. Firmly locked at 5 points apiece, Gauff violently ripped a stunning forehand winner perfectly down the line to secure a crucial 6-5 advantage, ultimately clinching the grueling first set with a pinpoint overhead smash that beautifully kissed the white line. The massive concrete bowl of Arthur Ashe Stadium absolutely exploded as Gauff looked into the roaring crowd and screamed "come on" at the top of her lungs. But Eala absolutely refused to shatter under the immense pressure. After a completely silent exchange of intense nods with her dedicated coach, a subtle grounding gesture she had directly inherited from her father, she stormed out of her chair and back onto the court for the second set with terrifying laser precision. She relentlessly broke Gauff's serve immediately, then easily held her own powerful serve and spectacularly broke the American once again to mount a staggering 4-love lead in a matter of minutes. Gauff suddenly looked visibly rattled and completely out of rhythm, wildly spraying unforced errors into the tram lines, and finding absolutely no tactical answer for Eala's flawless side-to-side movement and perfectly calibrated deep ground strokes. Eala ruthlessly seized the second set 6-2, forcefully pushing the incredible match into a highly dramatic, decisive third set. As they slowly crossed paths during the tense changeover between sets, the television cameras brilliantly captured a fleeting but truly monumental moment. Gauff quietly muttered something completely unheard by the surrounding courtside microphones. In direct response, a genuine, incredibly warm smile broke across Eala's intensely focused face. It was a beautiful, silent, and deeply powerful affirmation that they were absolutely not at war with each other as human beings. They were simply two fiercely competitive women who shared a profound mutual respect for their respective crafts. The final set rapidly devolved into an absolute physical war of attrition. Service breaks were violently traded back and forth under the suffocating weight of the New York pressure. Eala spectacularly broke the American's serve to go up 3-2, only for Gauff to instantly dig deep and break right back to completely level the terrifying scoreline. They nervously traded holds of serve until the incredibly tense score sat directly on a razor-thin knife edge at 5-4, with Eala serving for the entire match. Serving under the crushing weight of the entire world, watching Eala nervously bounce the yellow ball her customary 3 times on the baseline. She unleashed a massive unreturnable ace down the tee to quickly go 15-love, followed immediately by a heavily spun deep serve that forced a wild long return from the stretching Gauff, perfectly setting up 3 historic match points. The final agonizing point was a stunning microcosm of their respective athletic brilliance, featuring a grueling 20-shot baseline exchange that viciously pushed both incredible athletes to their absolute maximum physical limits. Gauff violently whipped a desperate cross-court backhand, aiming for the open space. Eala shifted into high gear, sprinting across the baseline, tracking the ball down to launch a screaming topspin forehand right down the narrow line. Gauff aggressively launched her body into the air, attempting a desperate acrobatic dive, but the speeding ball was completely beyond her incredible reach. It bounced twice on the blue concrete. The battle was officially over. Eala immediately collapsed to the hard court, completely burying her face in her trembling hands as the heavy emotional tears finally began to freely fall. Gauff did not awkwardly wait at the net for a traditional handshake. She walked straight over to the Filipino star, waited patiently for Eala to finally rise to her feet, and tightly enveloped her in a long, deeply meaningful embrace. Leaning in close, Gauff whispered directly into her ear, clear enough for the entire world to finally hear, "You deserve this, go. Win the whole thing." The heavily emotional post-match press conferences firmly cemented the lasting legacy of that unforgettable night. Gauff incredibly gracefully accepted the tough defeat, firmly stating she had absolutely no regrets, having been fairly bested by a true resilient champion and a wonderful true friend. A visibly tearful Eala beautifully dedicated her monumental victory to Gauff's immense off-court courage, totally refusing to let the aggressive media drag the triumphant narrative back into the toxic geopolitical mud. Today is not about France, and today is absolutely not about politics, Eala stated firmly and unequivocally into the microphone. Today is solely about tennis and respect, so let us focus entirely on that. Alex Eala brilliantly rode that massive wave of momentum all the way to the United States Open final. Although she valiantly fell in 3 grueling sets to the reigning world #1, the final loss was merely a tiny footnote in her incredible story. She had officially secured something vastly more important and enduring than a shiny silver trophy. She had won the absolute unquestionable respect of the entire global sporting community. She had stubbornly refused to let nasty international politics define her personal narrative, choosing instead to let her powerful racket deliver the ultimate final verdict. In the quiet months that immediately followed the intense media storm, the beautiful bond that was fiercely forged in the fires of Arthur Ashe Stadium only grew stronger. Gauff and Eala became frequent training partners in the humid heat of Florida and happily teamed up for various doubles tournaments across the continent of Europe. They quickly became the undisputed shining symbols of a brand new generation of professional tennis, a progressive generation actively proving that fierce elite competition absolutely does not require toxic bitter rivalries or permanently shattered personal relationships. The aggressive French media ultimately retreated into the shadows, their loud political outrage rendered completely petty and foolish in the blinding face of Eala's undeniable athletic brilliance. The United States completely and wholeheartedly adopted the young star as a massive fan favorite, enthusiastically showering her with lucrative brand endorsements and glossy magazine covers that were absolutely not born of cheap scandal but of pure excellence and unparalleled grace. Through it all, Coco Gauff remained the brave, unwavering voice of her era. She brilliantly proved to everyone that silence is not inherently golden, and that true bravery often requires speaking up loudly when it is entirely inconvenient and dangerous. The 2026 United States Open would forever be remembered not just for the breathtaking display of tennis, but for the exact unforgettable moment when 2 young fearless champions proved that the resilient human spirit will absolutely always outshine the deafening noise of the massive political machine. This is WTA Pro, and we are absolutely dedicated to bringing you the most intense, raw, and unapologetic breakdowns of the most explosive moments in women's tennis today. If you want fully sourced, rigorous documentation of everything developing inside the WTA Tour and the massive behind-the-scenes drama that the mainstream media completely refuses to cover, you need to subscribe right now and activate those notifications immediately. The landscape of professional sports is violently shifting right before our very eyes, and you absolutely do not want to miss a single second of the incredible fallout. Who do you think will ultimately dominate the upcoming 2027 season now that the established hierarchy has been completely flipped upside down? Drop your raw, unfiltered predictions down in the comment section below right now, because we are actively reading and responding to every single one of them. Do not forget to absolutely smash that like button if you believe that true sportsmanship and raw athletic talent will always prevail over toxic backstage politics. We will see you in the next video.